We've got 15 bracelets. Do you need to be stranded on a desert island for people to catch you?
I mean, you've got Phil Ivey, who can win 2 or 3 bracelets in a year. Mm-hmm. You've got Daniel Negreanu, who's just like, how many final tables a year does he have? And he has so many seconds. Yeah. Like, he and I were battling for, I think I have 12 seconds and he has 11 second places now or something. But he tied me for seconds for 1 minute there. And unfortunately, I had a second over in Europe that I really wanted to be a first. And he was at the final table with me. So there's some people that are just great. Who knows what the future holds for Dominic Nietzsche? Who knows what the future holds for Adrian Mateos? Who knows what the future holds for some of these guys that are there playing all these events? Now, a lot of the young guys don't play all the mixed games, but I think, what do I have? I have 2 bracelets in Raz, and all the rest are in Hold'em anyway. If you're great at Hold'em, you can get there more often because there's more skill.
Out of the 10, 11, 12 second place finishes, and I'm just gonna read. This tweet from yourself was just amazing. Hitting my number 1 life goal at 24 was amazing. By the time I was 28, I had 5 WSOP wins, and a new life goal was to become the greatest poker player of all time. You figured you needed to win 24 bracelets as recognized as the greatest of all time. If all those second places would have been wins, would have got there. But why did you say 24?
24 is a number that kind of like, I don't always have a perfect understanding of, I'd almost say mystical things. You know what I mean? I know that our minds are very powerful, and some of that is kind of untapped and unknown. And, my book Positivity talks about, how I've kind of, harnessed some of that potential, and how other people can harness that potential. And so for me, 24 was a number that I came up with at a young age. And I just thought, you know what, I can win 24 bracelets. And I came up with it in 1993, 94. Mm-hmm. I figured 24 would make me unassailable to the whole world. Yeah. I remember in 2005 when I passed Johnny Chan and I passed Doyle Brunson, and they both came up and congratulated me. Mm-hmm. And that was classy, right? We all shook hands. They were all like, great job, Phil. I mean, there was a big, when they awarded me that bracelet in front of the whole room, that night right after I won it, there was Chan and Brunson.
Brilliant.
And at that point, we were crazy. Johnny, and I think it was 05, but Johnny Chan and Doyle Brunson and I maybe it was 07 I passed them, but I mean, there were years where they'd win, Doyle would win 2, Chan would win 2, and I'd win 1 bracelet. I think that was 03. And so we were just winning them in bunches, even in the modern era. And so that battle was great. And so, you're never safe. There are people that can catch me, but now I have the records, and I just have to keep raising it.
Any of those second places you would have thought, you know what, I really wanted that one?
Yeah, I remember there was a second place where a guy was very, very lucky against me repeatedly. And then, and I still had a chance to take him out. I think I had pocket 5s and he had ace king. And I limped in with the 5s. We were playing 3-handed. The other guy had a peanut of a stack. Mm-hmm. And he raised, called, and it came 10 jack 7. And he bet and I raised with the 5s. And he just called, and I knew he had ace king. And the turn, I bet, he raised, and I re-raised him. Or at least I called him with the intent of calling on the river. And for some reason, I bailed on the river. All I had to do was call 500,000 on the river. I'm going to bust him. The other guy has the tiniest stack ever, Eugene Todd. And so that one really hurt because I also had the guy all in. I think he had king 10 suited when I had ace queen. I had him all in. We had a flip one time. And so that one hurt. Of course, when I finished second to Brian Rast, that's the one that hurt the most. Mm-hmm. because I had him down to no chips, and the whole poker world was watching. The stands were full of people at 3:30 in the morning. That would have been the one, the Poker Players Championship.
Yeah.
I probably regret a bunch of those second places. I remember one in 1994 where I had two aces, and I had a guy named George Rodas on with a king and a 10. Howard Lederer had a short stack,
Yeah.
and he was on before the flop with king 10, and he somehow won. I remember it came Jack 10, and he turned to 10, and I'd been waiting, moving in. Finally, I had aces, and that one I felt like I was supposed to win. And so there are times where you just feel like you were supposed to win a bracelet, and it didn't happen.
Yeah. Apart from poker, you obviously write books. We've touched on that very shortly. I'm going to show you something very shortly on how we first met, and I remember it more than you, obviously. But you're in the New York Times bestsellers list, and we've got the brand new book out at this moment in time. But I have got this. I've got Deal Me In, and I have it signed.
Nice.
Because I was in London at the World Series Poker Europe, and we did the book launch. And I remember we went into a pub on the corner of Leicester Square. Myself and Paul, who still works with us, and we got the book. And this was a new release when it came out, and we signed it off. And I thought, do you know what? Phil Hellmuth has just signed a book for me. And it's still pristine, by the way. It is pristine. It's got all the stories. My favourite story is the Devilfish story. I love these little books. But if you wasn't a poker player, and a very, very successful poker player, would writing and being an author be right up there of what you would be doing on a regular basis?
I mean, it's very interesting. I think, this is the first time in an interview I've ever said it, but I think I could have been a motivational speaker pretty easily. That aligns well with me, but you have to accomplish something, I think, to be able to motivationally speak to people, I think. And it's an easier path to get there. So, but I could easily have been a motivational speaker. I could easily have been a successful businessman.
Yeah.
And could easily have been a promoter. So I don't really know where I'd be if it wasn't poker. But hopefully I would have written a book or two.
Well, that's there. That I was there when it I was there with you, and it's signed for me by the great one. And then
book, it's like 50 hand of the weeks, and so you read each one, and what takes 2 or 3 minutes to read the story. Just kind of a flavor of what it was like. Deal Me In now, as I look back, is a flavor of what it was like to be a professional poker player in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. Because that book came out, what, in 05 or 06?
Yeah. And no, it's impressive. Where did Poker Brat get coined? Who was the first person to call you the Poker Brat, or was it yourself?
No, that was not me. That was Andy Glazer.
All right, okay.
So Andy Glazer was, the all-star poker writer, right? And he, I have a funny story about how I met him. Should I tell it?
Yeah, of course.
So my wife and I choose a vacation, and we choose to go to a place called Esalen. Esalen's a very famous spiritual place. So we decide we're going to go study Buddhism with the master, the Lama Suryadas. Suryadas has become bigger and bigger and bigger in Buddhism and has lots of books out. So my wife and I go to Esalen for our vacation to study Buddhism. I'm like, hun, can't we go to like a 5-star hotel somewhere? So we drive down the California coast. We arrive at the most beautiful place you've ever seen. One of the houses is right underneath a waterfall. But they have the natural hot springs there, but you're not allowed to wear clothing. So everybody has to go into the hot springs naked. And my wife chose not to talk. That was part of the training. And so I wasn't going to do much talking. And one day she's like, hey, I'm going to go get some food. And I'm like, I'm going to the hot tub. So the natural springs. So I go down there, no clothes on, and sitting across from me is this guy talking about what I think is a poker tournament, and I'm like, no way, come on, this is a spiritual place. He's talking about a poker tournament. At the end of it, he's talking to one of I guess Andy worked there, and somehow I said, oh, I dabble a little bit in poker. He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, yeah. I play here and there, and I was trying to be modest because that's what we were taught that week. Of course, this was during a time when I wasn't as modest in the 1990s, and I guess the world thinks I'm not modest, but they don't know me that well. But anyway. After you listen to this interview, I sound cocky. I'll give you that. So anyway, there's Andy, and he's like, oh, so he starts asking question. I'm trying to brush it off. Almost sorry I brought it up, and then Andy says, oh, what's your name? And I say Phil Hellmuth, and he's like 6'6". The 6'6" big naked guy stands straight up out of the hot tub, and he says to his friend, that's like Michael Jordan saying that he dabbles in basketball, and like over and shakes my hand, walks over to shake my hand, this big naked guy, and I shake his hand. And we were connected after that, and he was a writer, and so he wanted to write my autobiography. And when I finally started writing the autobiography, he wanted to help me with my first book too, so now I sold my book to HarperCollins, and he wanted to help me, but he got sick right then. And so I wrote the book myself. He wrote maybe of that book, say it's 94,000 words. Andy wrote about 8,000 words. And but I was depending on him, but he was sick. So I started doing it myself, 1,500 words a day, every day. Bam, 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 bam. And it got easy because I'm writing about poker strategy. And so, but we had a long-term plan of him writing the autobiography, but unfortunately, he died